Hey guys, PrinceofMacedon here. I'm doing this commentary video for a multiplayer fight on Rome Total War, and this will be a historical battle, the Battle of Sentinum, in 295 BC during the Samnite Wars. And in this battle, this is called the Battle of the Nations because the Samnites were led by Egnatius, but he also had the support of the Gauls, and he also had the support of the Etruscans and the Umbrii. But at this battle, it was only the Gauls and the Samnites, and I'll tell you why later, why the Etruscans and the Umbrii did not take part in this fight. But I will represent the army of Egnatius with the rebel faction, and I will deploy historically here. I will put the Samnites on the left. That's where Egnatius put his Samnite infantry. And the Samnite Cav on the extreme left, and I will represent the Samnite Cav with a Greek Cav. That's all I can think of. Either that or Equites. I chose Greek Cav. And there will be Peltists present here. They represent the lighter elements of the Samnite-Gallic army. And the Gallic contingent is represented here with naked fanatics. And the Gallic Cav is represented with Barbarian Cav. And also present at this fight were chariots. And so I brought British heavy chariots to represent the Gallic chariots at this fight. And finally I put Egnatius himself on a rebel general unit here. That's Egnatius commanding from the middle. And that's the army of the Samnite-Gallic army. Now let me show you my opponent. His name is Rullianus Decius, and he represents the two armies of the Romans, led by Rullianus and Decius Mus. And let me show you the army really quick. There are 3 Velite units here. There's a contingent of Roman armor general that represents whichever Roman general you want to be present here. They were both present though, but I only chose one Roman armor general unit. I chose a unit of Roman Cav, and they represent the Campanian Cav that the Romans had with them at this battle, and they were a very hardcore Cav contingent consisting of 1,000 very well-trained horsemen. Then I have the Roman infantry, Hastati gold, Principe gold, Triarii gold, and there's also some hidden equites in this forest right here. So, in the actual battle, Rullianus would have commanded the right side of this army, and Decius Mus would have commanded the left. In case you're wondering, Decius Mus is a very popular name, and I'll tell you why. There were 3 Romans named Decius Mus, and they were all related. The Decius Mus at this battle, he committed devotio, which is a Roman ritual, a sacrificial ritual in which he would sacrifice himself and the enemy troops in order to gain victory for his army. His father, also named Decius Mus, committed devotio at the Battle of Vesuvius against the Latins, and his son, Decius Mus, also committed devotio at the Battle of Asculum against King Pyrrhus. Unfortunately, at Asculum, the Romans lost that battle, but still, this was a very hardcore family, the family of Decius Mus. Like, if you saw this guy's name in a lineup, you probably wouldn't want to mess with these guys, because these guys are very fanatical. So anyways, the Third Samnite War started in 298 BC, and it started when the Samnites attacked Lucania. The Lucanians came to Rome asking for help, and of course the Romans, who were always itching for expansion, they decided to support these Lucanians against the Samnites. So the Romans sent in their priests to ask the Samnites to leave Lucania, and of course the Samnites did not want to leave. So the Romans declared war, and this was great for the Romans because the Romans didn't really like the Samnites too much. So this was not a very good war initially for the Romans because they were fighting on multiple fronts. They were fighting Etruscans, Umbrii, Gauls, and the Samnites. But good thing is, these guys, they did not coordinate their efforts very well. So at the start of the Samnite Wars, the Romans were pretty much just beating down these armies left and right because they were fighting these peoples one at a time. They would not coordinate their efforts against Rome. So finally, in around 295 BC, the Samnite leader Egnatius decided that they could not beat these Romans single-handedly. They had to coordinate their efforts with their allies to beat these Romans. And let me pause right about here so I can talk about what happened in the actual Battle of Sentinum, and then I will show what happens in this battle. So let's pause. So as I was saying, the Samnites, led by Egnatius, decided that the only way to beat the Romans was to coordinate their efforts with their allies. So in 295 BC, the Samnites, they formed a huge army, maybe around 80 or 90,000 troops, consisting of Samnites, Etruscans, Umbrii, and Gauls. They first went up against the Romans at the Battle of Camerinum, if you can call it a battle. The Romans were led by Barbatus, and he commanded the 2nd Legion. It was just one legion against about 80 or 90,000 of these various people who hated Rome. So he was beaten down and slaughtered, so he finally formed up a last-ditch effort on this hill. He was getting surrounded by these troops, but that's when the army of... when this dual army of Rullianus and Mus came to their rescue. When Egnatius saw this Roman army coming behind them, they decided to withdraw because he did not want to get surrounded by these Romans. So he left the survivors of Barbatus and the 2nd Legion. So they survived when these Romans appeared. And the Roman army consisted of the 1st and 3rd Legion led by Rullianus, and the 5th and 6th Legion led by Decius Mus. So so they saved their comrade Barbatus, and they pursued this army to Sentinum. But when they saw how big this army was, this is like 80, 90,000 troops. I just gotta remind you of that. And the Roman army was only about 40,000 strong. Only 16,000 of those troops were Roman. The rest were pretty much allied contingents. So what Rullianus did was he sent a messenger to the Roman armies near Rome, and he told these guys to attack Etruria as a diversionary force. And when this other Roman army came from Rome to attack Etruria, this accomplished what Rullianus hoped it accomplished. It ended up making the Etruscans and the Umbrii to withdraw from this battle of Sentinum, because this is basically their home, Etruria. So that's why the Etruscans and the Umbrii were not present at this battle. It's because of this diversionary attack from this 3rd Roman army. So the Etruscans and the Umbrii left, and then what ended up happening, it was more of an equal battle now. There were about 40,000 Romans versus about 40,000 or 50,000 of these Samnite-Gallic troops. And so they met here on the plains of Sentinum. And right now, it's looking kind of like the historical battle here. For 2 or 3 days, the Romans were skirmishing with this Samnite-Gallic army, hoping to bring them into battle. So they went back and forth for 2 days, just skirmishing, with their light infantry units and their cav. But on the 3rd day, this is kind of legend though. On the 3rd day, a wolf came down from this hill, chasing a deer. So this wolf chased this deer right between these two armies here, like right around here, and eventually the wolf stopped pursuing the deer. So the wolf ran towards the Roman lines, and when the wolf came by, the Romans actually opened their ranks and let the wolf pass by. But when the deer ran, it ran towards the Gauls here. So here's the deer. It's running this way like this. And instead of opening ranks for the deer, the Gallic troops actually slaughtered the deer. And then one of the Romans at the front, on the front ranks here, he said, "Hey, Gallic dudes, when you see one of these sacred animals of Diana slaughtered before your army, it means that the path to surrender and slaughter is going to be right here. This is where the deer died, basically." So he was saying that because the deer died right here, it represented, it foreshadowed that only surrender, rout, and slaughter would be right around here. Whereas on the Roman side, this is where the wolf passed by unharmed. He said that this unharmed wolf represented their god of Mars and his people, and also it represented Romulus, who was one of the founders of Rome. So this was a very good sign for the Romans. So this encouraged the Romans to start warfare on this day. And there were two conflicting strategies here. Decius Mus on the left wanted to fight these Gallic troops and open up battle by attacking, but the other consul, Rullianus, wanted to stand their ground, absorb the shock of these Samnites and Gallic troops, absorb their attack until they got tired, and basically launch a counterattack. He knew that was the way to take down Samnites and Gallic troops. But unfortunately, Decius Mus decided to attack. So he attacked these Gallic troops, sent in his histati first, and the Gallic troops were equal to the task. They beat back these histati, so Decius Mus sent in his Principes, the next line, and they too failed. So finally, Decius Mus came in on horseback along with the Equites and launched this attack on these Gallic cav, and they were driving the Gallic cav back for a while. But then that's when these Gallic chariots came out of hiding from behind the army, and they launched this furious counterattack, which drove the Equites all the way back to wherever, and then they turned and slaughtered these Principes and histati. Or they were starting to slaughter them, but that's when Decius Mus, in tradition of his family, he decided to commit the Roman ritual of devotio. He donned the special toga, took the sacred spear, and he threw himself on these Gallic troops and impaled himself. But as he rode towards these infantry of Gaul, he was saying, this prayer that basically I will sacrifice myself and these enemy troops so that my troops can gain victory. And when the Gallic troops saw this Roman commander committing this ritual, they saw this guy commit suicide, and they knew it was a ritual. So when he basically committed suicide, they knew something was up, and they did not know which god he was praying to. So they froze in fear, even though they were winning against the Romans. They could not run, they could not fight, they just froze right there in position. And that's when the remaining Roman troops decided to, pick up the effort, and they were kicking the crap out of these Gallic troops when they saw their commander commit suicide. Kind of funny, isn't it? Seeing the death of their commander. This had the opposite effect for Romans. They fought even harder. So they threw these Gallic troops all the way back. The Gallic troops started to run away, and they eventually formed Testudo back here, somewhere back here. And they were in this defense position. Meanwhile, the army of Rullianus was fighting the Samnites, and as predicted, he absorbed the Samnite charge, threw them back, and then he eventually launched his counterattack, which basically slaughtered the Samnite army. But the Samnites had to flee back to their own camp, which left the Gallic troops in Testudo to deal with this dual army of Romans. So the Gallic troops in Testudo was surrounded. First they were pelted with javelins, and then they were hit by the Campanian cav from behind, and they were pretty much slaughtered. And eventually the Romans gathered the remaining troops, and they pursued the remaining Samnites at their camp, surrounded them, and slaughtered them, including their leader Egnatius. So that's how the actual battle progressed. Now, let me show you how this battle progressed. Let's resume this battle, shall we? So here we are skirmishing with our cav. So this is progressing as the historical battle progressed. We're just kind of going back and forth, unwilling to commit our actual troops to the battle. And once again, I do lead this Gallic Samnite army of Egnatius. And there are hidden Equites in this forest here, and I knew that during the battle, because where else would they be? So, keeping that in mind, I was wary of this forest right here. Bum, dun, 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 dun. This guy chose an interesting lineup here. He put his Triarii on the front lines here. Kind of a good idea, though, because if my cav did come down and charge these Velites, then he would have his Triarii nearby to support him. But a typical Roman assembly would be the Triarii in the back, Histati in the front, Principes in the middle, and of course the Velites in the front. So here we are. We're gonna skirmish just like Egnatius and the Romans at the actual battle. And I hope you guys don't mind that I paused to show you the actual historical battle, but I wanted to do that so it wouldn't be confusing with my commentary. So now I can focus on the actual battle that I'm fighting and not the historical battle. So I have my Gallic troops on the right here, and I'm gonna keep them a little far ahead of my Samnites because in this game I think these naked fanatics are better fighters than these Samnite mercenaries. Samnite mercenaries are considered light troops, so they don't have as much staying power as the naked fanatics. So here comes Rullianus Decius. He's putting his cav all the way out here. So when I see how far his cav is, I know there's cav here and there's cav way out in this forest. I decided to take my own cav, and I'm going to cause mayhem on these velites who have no cav support right now, because the cav is way out here and way out there, too far to support. I only have to fear the javelins of the Roman infantry, so I'm gonna take a chance here and start charging these velites down. So here I am. This is my general unit, Egnatius, smack right into these velites. I am taking losses from those javelins, by the way. So I rout them. I see his cav coming, but they're coming in, but they responded kind of slow. I didn't expect that. So I decided to turn back and hammer these velites right here. I decide, hey, I have time, and these guys still have no support, so I'm going to keep charging these guys. So I rout these guys too. The cav is way out here, and I notice he's too, where he doesn't want to commit his equites here because he doesn't want to expose his hiding spot. So I'm going to pursue these velites all the way out here, then I turn back because I don't want to get smacked by these equites, who I know are right here. Unfortunately, these velites stop routing. Even these guys right here stop routing too. But at least I caused maybe around 40% damage on these guys. So yeah, there, they stopped routing. But yeah, I do strike first blood. So I am winning this skirmish phase. So I can bring back my general unit. This is Egnatius. And he is down to 20 horses. So he lost about 4 or 5 troops. 4 or 5 horsemen already. Kind of unfortunate, but at least I knocked down some of those velites. So now he brings his equites out of hiding. So the cat's out of the bag. He wants to attack my peltas now. He wants to equalize, but I bring up my Samnites here to scare off his equites. And of course my peltas draw some blood on these equites. This one's down to 51 from 54. Other one's down from 49. Or it's down to 49. And I'm still pelting him with my peltas. And this is kind of interesting. He advances with the left side of his army. And this is exactly how the historical battle progressed. The left side of the Roman army progressed against these Gallic troops. The specifics are different though, because in this case, it's the Principes advancing without Hastati support. But yeah, it's the left side of this Roman army advancing. So I see these Principes advancing, so I'm going to steady my naked fanatics here. I'm going to get them ready for combat. These guys are hiding right here for some reason. Oh, because they're still in the trees. So yeah, I see these guys coming up close. And they're not moving, so I'm going to initiate the combat again. I'm going to take all my cav, minus my chariots, and I'm going to try to take down these velites once and for all. I figure I have the superiority on this side to take down his equites. I even have Samnites helping out. So I'm going to attack these velites, hoping to draw it as cav. So I smack down some of these. And that's when he advances with his Principes again down the left. See these guys? And now I'm just gonna smack them around a little bit with my peltas. There's my peltas. And I've got my naked fanatics in war cry. So I know this battle's happening soon. So I'm gonna get my guys ready. and then I'm gonna charge down on those Principes. And he tosses his javelins, but at my Peltis though. That's why I have my Peltis on the front ranks. So now there's a general brawl here. Look at this. Look at that. The Gallus first into combat, just like the historical battle. And over here on this side, I have my Samnites opening combat here against these Velites. And this is going on over here. I'm trying to get a Hammer and Anvil charge on these Principes, but unfortunately, he brings up his Triarii to ward me off. So here's this big brawl here. And it's kind of interesting. Look at this. His guys are like smacked in this little smudge of Roman infantry. But unfortunately, my guys are losing here. Well, it says that I'm winning right now. But he brings up his Hastati now. I think this is when he turns the tide on this side. He comes up and he charges my Hastati. Sorry, my Peltis, sorry about that. So I'm gonna throw in my Gallic Cav to ward off his Equites and his Roman armor general. And this might start to lose troops here. See this? I'm losing troops. Look at that, all of my my Gallic infantry just routes. And this is why I take my chariots out of hiding and I start smacking around his Roman Cav. So I do have my chariots in action, but it's too late. My entire right wing just folds under pressure here. Strangely enough, my Samnites are holding their ground, and I consider my Samnites to have less abilities than my Naked Fanatics. So now I gotta win on this side, because the Romans are completely victorious on this side. Look at all my troops routing. So I'm surrounding these Hastati with my Samnites, some Fanatics, and my general unit here. So look at this overall picture of the battlefield. My guys are retreating on the other side. But a miracle happens, that's when I break his Hastati. So I'm gonna get all my troops in to slaughter these guys. Look, he almost was able to get his Cav here on time. But then I took back my Samnites to turn back, ward him off. So I was victorious on the left, he was victorious on the right. So some of my troops do stop routing, and that's when I decide to run them away from these Principes. Because these Principes would just smash my survivors, my Gallic survivors. So I'm going to run away from those guys and try to reassemble my lines here. Keep them away long enough for my army to defeat whatever Roman troops are on this side. So it's a general brawl here. He won one side, I'm winning on the other. Here I got my Samnites taking on his general here. Could that be Decius Mus ready to sacrifice himself for the Roman cause? Maybe. But yeah, I'm gonna pursue these routing Roman troops. I do not want them to come back from routing. So I will pursue these guys as long as possible. But if these guys come back from routing, then his Principes might have a chance of success. So he's forming up his guys into this defensive structure. And that's when the general of Rome starts to run away. There he is. He does not commit suicide though, Devotio, unfortunately. That would have been epic. But just back to the historical battle, I'm assuming that this guy told his troops that he would commit Devotio, because he did have a special priest, a Pontifex, near him at all times, ready to commit Devotio. And plus, when he did commit suicide, his infantry was not surprised. They fought even harder, so I'm pretty sure he had this all planned out in the event that he would lose. Or that if the battle looked bad, he would commit Devotio. So anyways, I have my rebel general, Egnatius, taking on these Velites, but watch what happens here. I lose Egnatius. True, Egnatius did die against the Romans at this battle, but it wasn't this early on. He died defending his camp after we fled. But yeah, I got these Velites standing their ground. So I peel back my general unit, and I'm gonna take these Samnites and fight these Velites. And luckily, these Velites stand their ground. So my Samnites can just pick them off at this range. So here's what's going on here. There's still Roman troops running away. And I decide to stop pursuing, because I don't think they're going to come back, so I'm going to reassemble my army. My victorious left and my surviving right. So I'm going to start gathering my troops this way. And he has these surviving equites here. He's going to link up with his Principes. But I take my chariots and my barbarian cav, and I'm going to intercept these equites before they unite with the Principes. See this? I just charge them down. Even my chariots get into the action, and those equites are slaughtered to the last man. So, for the most part, this guy is down just to his Principes. But I don't want to commit to any kind of charge yet until I have all my troops here. Because I don't think this is enough to take on those gold Principes. So yeah, I am gathering my troops slowly but surely here. These guys are slowly making their way from the other side of the map. These guys are tired. These guys are winded. These guys are warmed up. These guys are warmed up too. And this is pretty cool, these Samnite mercenaries, because it shows how they actually were equipped. They had a shield. They had a spear. They weren't a very rich people. They're kind of poor. So I still have the rest of my troops gathering from the other side here. I did not really need to wait for this rebel general unit because the general's already dead, so they didn't really have much of a purpose. Except to provide hammer and anvil support, so in that respect I still need them. Because as I said, I don't know if I have enough troops to fight this Principes who are gold. So I want to gather all my strength. I don't think I wait for this last unit here. I mean, they are on their way, but look how far they are. They're tired too. So yeah, slowly but surely I'm gathering what remaining troops I have. Pretty cool stuff. And I wanted to show a battle from the Samnite Wars just because the Samnite Wars is hardly ever discussed by people. Like, in this time period, I think the Pyrrhic Wars takes more precedence over that. And in favor, I mean, even more popular than the Pyrrhic Wars are the Punic Wars. So early Rome, I think the Samnite Wars, even the Latin Wars and the Etruscan Wars doesn't get as much love as these later Roman battles of the Republic. And what I like about this war, the Samnite Wars, is that this was kind of around the time of Alexander the Great. As I said, this battle took place in 295 BC. Alexander the Great died in 323 BC. So I like these battles in other regions of the world that took place around the time period of Alexander the Great. It's just interesting to see how other people fought. Anyways, during the Second Samnite Wars, there's some scholars who think the Romans were still fighting in a phalanx, but they eventually switched to the maniple. You know, with Principes, Hastati, all that, during the Samnite War, during the Second Samnite Wars, because they were getting beaten by these Samnite tactics. So they eventually switched their own tactics. They adapted to the enemy and overcame them. That's what Romans were good at. They were good at adapting. So anyways, I put my Peltus in the front here, hoping he would shoot off his Pila, but he turned off his javelins. See, I am within range, and I know he still has javelins, so he is using his brains to fight me here. So knowing that his javelins are turned off, I've got these Samnites nearby, and I will charge with these guys first. And I have my Naked Fanatics and Warcry. I think I didn't show it, by the way. So yeah, now he turns on his javelins, see this? And when he turns on the javelins, it's going to target the nearest unit here, so it targets these guys. So my Naked Fanatics don't get any damage from the javelins. So I'm just going to come down in strength and strike from the rear with my chariots and my barbarian cav. So this is the reversal of what happened in the actual battle. In the actual battle, it was the Gauls who were in the situation when they were at Testudo. They got surrounded and destroyed from all sides. But in this case, the Romans are the ones getting surrounded. And unfortunately, there's nowhere for these guys to retreat, these Roman dogs. So they will get surrounded and killed to the last man. And my barbarians, they cheer for the death of these Romans. The Romans weren't very popular. That's why these Etruscans, these Samnites, Umbria and Gauls, that's why they all united against them. But unfortunately, the Romans did triumph. and the Samnites were subjugated. Good game to my opponent Rullianus Decius. I want to thank him for taking part in this historical battle. Hope you guys enjoyed this historical talk. And I want to talk more about this Samnite War, just because people don't really talk about it. That's why I paused during the game, took my time and talked about it. And I hope you guys didn't mind that. But it seems like a lot of people do like history, so I love history, so why not talk about it more? Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Hope you guys enjoyed this this commentary video on the Battle of Sentinum.